Chapter 11. Frank then told Chrome that he shouldn't worry about Gato, who was just an unfriendly guy, and that he should try to overlook it. However, Frank noticed that Chrome had no scratches even though he was in the middle layers of the dungeon, which could be due to his skill. Frank also discovered that the way Chrome's clothes were dirty meant he had been in the dungeon for at least a day, and he didn't see his weapons, which made him wonder what level Chrome was. Chrome realized that if they asked him too many questions, he might make a mistake because they could attack at any time, and he reasoned that he should gain the advantage by attacking first to scare them and run away. The situation became tense as both Frank and Chrome wondered what they should do. But at that moment, Shelley came over to Chrome and asked him if he was okay with the dungeon disaster that was happening. And seeing how Shelley acted towards him, Chrome was startled thinking that Shelley wasn't wary of him. Guido also warned Shelley not to be reckless as he said Chrome might be a bandit. But Shelley smiled and replied that she knew Chrome wasn't. As Chrome struggled to find an answer, she asked if he had comrades or was alone, and that if Chrome was in trouble, they would gladly assist him in getting outside. However, Chrome ran away after responding that he was fine. Shelley was startled when she saw this, and Frank told Gato not to shoot. Shelley inquired whether Chrome would be fine alone, to which Gato replied that they would not assist someone who is that suspicious in escaping. Shelley, on the other hand, stated that while Chrome appeared strange, she believed he wasn't a bad person, and that if they left him alone, he would perish in the disaster. Frank also stated that Chrome could be an exiled criminal, which is why he was suspicious of them. Frank, on the other hand, believes that fighting other people in the dungeon is far too dangerous for those involved, as Chrome is most likely a criminal who doesn't need to be pursued when he runs away on his own. He knew that Gato had made Chrome too afraid of them, and that it was a dangerous situation in which neither of them could make a move, but Shelley's kindness enabled him to flee, and that it was only because Shelley relieved the tension that they and Chrome could safely part ways. Frank realized that being cool-headed and suspicious are good qualities for an adventurer, and he assumed Shelley's faith in people was a virtue. Frank then asked Guido and Shelley whether they should retreat or go after the boss, saying he would leave it up to Guido to decide. Guido hesitated before admitting that it would be easier to deal with the dungeon boss as soon as possible. So Guido concluded that if Shelley and Frank liked it, he would go along with it, and since he is the rear guard, he would flee in the worst-case scenario. When Frank and Shelley heard this, they were relieved. Shelley assured them that they would be fine because they were one of the guild's top parties. Shelley remembered the incident that occurred in her hometown and resolved to do whatever it took to prevent such a tragedy from occurring again. Chrome was seen panting as he realized he had run away at the end. He remembered when Shelley asked him if he would be okay alone, which he made him remember when the last time someone spoke kindly to him. He'd been an undead for a week, and even his party members were cold to him at the time. He remembered the adventurers saying something about fighting the dungeon boss and wondered if they would actually try. He did notice that they appeared to be high-leveled adventurers, but he was still concerned about them facing a wild dungeon boss. He was afraid that if he intervened, they would fight when they met later. So he concluded that the adventurers were heading to the fight because they are confident, and he would just get in the way because they are suspicious of him. And he can't use his strength if he's in human form, which means he can't reveal his true form. But he remembered what Frank said about adventurers' duty to challenge and defend the people of the city. Frank and his fellow adventurers were seen fighting the dungeon boss, the Gargoyle King, a C-rank monster with a level of 30. They were aware, however, that the dungeon boss they were about to face could be the most powerful they had ever encountered. Chapter 12. Shelley was surprised to learn that the dungeon boss's level was much higher than she had anticipated. Frank told Shelley to circle the Gargoyle King while he handled the front. Frank knew he had to go all out to fight stronger monsters, so he used his skill, Sword Wave, and slashed at the Gargoyle King, who blocked the attack. But Frank noticed that its left arm was defenseless, so he struck his sword at the arm, which was astonishingly tough, which shocked Frank. The Gargoyle King then attacked Shelley, who easily avoided the attack due to the monster's slow speed. Shelley then activated her skill, Sword Princess, which awakens talent for the sword. She then saw an opening and struck hard with a clean sword strike, but she felt her attack did not deal any damage. At the time, Guido shot his arrow at the gargoyle monster, which the monster dodged. Frank realized that the Gargoyle King is a slow, high-defense type of monster, but the monster is too large, so he concluded that they should go for its eyes. But it is impossible to pass through the two massive swords the monster was wielding. At that moment, the Gargoyle King struck Frank with his sword, which he managed to block. Frank thought long and hard about how they could win the fight, but was shocked to discover that the Gargoyle King had a magical skill, Flare Vortex, which it activated, causing a whirlpool of flame, which burned Frank's both arms, who checked Shelley only to discover that she was safe except that she had lost hope. Frank, on the other hand, decided that as the leader, he would not be deterred and would continue attacking it regardless of how futile it was. He then activated the sword beam and slashed at the monster, but the Gargoyle King had used its Flare Vortex at Frank, who didn't back down and then executed his strongest attack, the sword cross. Frank then signaled to Gato, who shot his arrow and hit the monster in the eye. Seeing this, Frank prepared for the monster's retaliation, but the monster grabbed at Frank's sword, causing him to lose his sword as he fell down and fell unconscious. Guido immediately yelled at Shelley that she should retreat since Frank was down, but Shelley tried to reach Frank's side, but the monster turned its attention at her. Shelley thought if she could carry Frank and fight at the same time. Shelley asked Guido to at least try to escape, and that she was sorry that both Frank and her forced him to follow them to fight the dungeon boss. But the exhausted Gato said it was his own choice that he joined the attack, and not long after he also fell unconscious. Seeing this, Shelley had lost all hope as the monster swung his sword at her, and she resigned to her fate. Chrome then appeared and grabbed Shelley's sword, which he used to block the Gargoyle King's attack. It was then that Shelley realized she was still alive, and saw Chrome face the Gargoyle King himself. Chapter 13. Guido raised his head as he asked Chrome why he came, to which Chrome thought about how he decided, to which Chrome remembered that he concluded that no matter how little he could help, he would do his best to stop monsters from hurting people, which was the reason why he became an adventurer in the first place. So it didn't matter if he revealed his true form or not as long as he is able to protect people. Chrome, on the other hand, would like Shelley and others to leave so he could attack freely, but given the condition of the adventurers, he knew it was not possible. He also realized that despite the onslaught of 3 adventurers, the monster only had minor damages, and as he was debating whether he should aim for the monster's eyes so he could defeat it, the monster swung at Chrome, catching him off guard, resulting in a nasty cut. Then he drew back and used his regeneration ability to instantly heal himself. However, the monster erupted with its Flare Vortex, using the flames to surround itself so that Chrome couldn't reach it. As a result of this unexpected turn of events, he was cornered into a wall by the monster's barrage attacks. The monster then swung its sword at Chrome in an attempt to kill him in one strike, but Chrome turned his arm back to his true form, which had long sharp claws, and stopped the sword with his hand. He then thrust his sword deeply into the eye, which is located in the stomach. However, Shelley couldn't see what was going on because the monster's massive body was blocking her view. At that moment, the monster angrily swung his other sword at Chrome, who quickly dodged it. Chrome wondered why the monster hadn't fallen yet despite the severe injuries it had sustained, and how the enraged monster didn't give Chrome any opportunity to counterattack as it continued its barrage of attacks. Chrome can avoid the flames damage thanks to his regeneration skill, but his mana is about to run out, so he can't take any more hits, which means he won't be able to use regeneration skill, let alone masquerade to keep his human form in check. But he noticed that the monster was also nearing its limit, so he tried to find an opening.